this idea to do a reaction video when I watched Bo Burnham's Inside, and he kind of did that whole endless loop of him kind of reviewing himself, and just went on and on forever and ever. So I sort of settled on this, doing Vaush's review of Ben Shapiro talking to Niel Degrasse Tyson, because I kind of like it because I hate Ben Shapiro. And if you take the time to review anything Ben Shapiro does, you kind of see that he's an idiot. So this should be pretty good, because Vaush kind of hates Ben Shapiro as much as I do. He probably hates him more than I do. Actually, I don't know, because I hate Ben Shapiro. Mostly because I kind of know the community that he was brought up in, seeing that I was brought up in a similar type community. I know he's American and I'm South African, but we were brought up in a similar Jewish community, because I've gone fucking completely the opposite way to what he's gone. But yeah, so let's see what Ben Shapiro gets schooled by Niel Degrasse Tyson on trans issues. Okay, let's see what we've got.
The answer to that question should have no consequence on legislations or laws.
Okay,
True. For the longest time, the question as to whether or not being gay is a choice was a matter of political import. The reality is, it doesn't matter.
Wait, hold on. I've got a lot of fucking smoke. Got a lot of smoke. I can't do this smokeless.
This was just passed to me, and there are some segment ideas that are too good to pass up under any circumstances. Niel Degrasse Tyson and Ben Shapiro on transgenderism. All right. Oh man, is Ben coming into this one angry?
See, I told you. He hates Ben Shapiro.
Just let it be known, by the way, I don't like Niel Degrasse Tyson. I find him really insufferable. But let's see how this.
Why does he not like Niel Degrasse Tyson? I love Niel deGrasse Tyson. Why does he find him insufferable? The dude just literally talks about science. Science and astrophysics. I love astrophysics. He just explains the fucking universe to you. Why does he not like him? Okay, I like Niel deGrasse Tyson, but I don't know why. Maybe he told us.
Goes. If they end up agreeing on everything.
The left is militating against the advent of science.
Militating?
One of those areas is the area of transgenderism. The argument that is typically made by...
Militating.
What's he doing?
To be a powerful or conclusive factor in preventing. Is that what he meant? Militating, like preventing science from happening? I don't know.
So now...
Gender theorists is that...
So Vaush So Ben Shapiro used the word militating, and then Vaush looked up the word militating, because apparently he didn't think that militating was an actual word. But apparently it is a word. Ben Shapiro, I don't think he's a complete idiot. I think what he does is quite intentional a lot of the time. I think he's a fucking snake oil salesman, but a smart snake oil salesman. Like, he's doing it intentionally to fucking pull the wool over everyone's eyes. Okay, let's carry on.
Gender is entirely separate from sex. You've seen the argument made that it makes no difference on average if men are stronger than women are, and that if we were to...
Everyone knows this, though. No one's out there saying that women are stronger than men. Like, everyone knows this argument. Ben, you fucking idiot.
To allow transgender women to compete with non-transgender women, then this would somehow not disadvantage biological.
So one of the reasons, like, again, a reminder to any conservatives watching, one of the reasons it's really easy to make fun of Ben Shapiro and other conservatives is that every time they open their mouth on this subject, they reveal how little they know about it, okay? Like, right off the bat, he's like, well, don't they know that men and women tend not to be the same strength?
I fucking told you.
Everybody knows this. Literally everyone.
I said it. I said it. I said it before Vaush.
Go up to any gender theorist, activist, whatever, and be like, hey, men tend to be stronger than women. And they'll be like, yeah. But, like, they keep saying it like it's an own, you know? It really shows where they are in the discourse. He's had this conversation 400 million times, and he's still at, like, step 1. Or maybe step -1. I don't know.
Logical women. And this seems to me absolutely ascientific, that if we're actually going to have a discussion about gender and sex, that should be based in data, which suggests that mammals are, in fact, binary in terms of their sex, unless you have intersex birth defects, typically, or genetic defects.
I'm happy to open.
So, first of all, just really quick, because this is like the 48th time I've responded to Ben Shapiro's unchanging argument against trans people. Notice how he said that the existence of trans people or their validity or whatever is unscientific, and then the only reason he gave that it was unscientific was saying that men and women tend to be physically different. He hasn't even touched on the gender thing. Like, the point is gender, right? The thing is, like, the relationship between gender and sex is philosophical. It's conceptual. It's theoretical. It's not scientific. Scientists don't determine what gender is.
This is a very important point. And this is why I like Vaush. Props to Destiny, because Destiny is my main man. I really like Destiny's my main man. Vaush, dig him. I dig him a lot. But he's right. The aspect of gender, like he said, is a philosophical one and probably more of a sociological one. Also, you know, aspect of sex is a scientific one. And Ben Shapiro just blows past the whole thing. He's equating the two. He's just saying that, essentially, from what I can tell so far, that he's saying that sex and gender are essentially the same thing, or he's accusing the trans people of saying that they're saying that sex and gender are the same thing. Let's see what Niel Degrasse Tyson has to say, because I think he's about to talk.
So Ben Shapiro was like, well, this is highly unscientific, but then he doesn't list anything surrounding the fundamental questions surrounding the validity of trans people. You know?
Yeah, and that's what he
has
does.
To ask, like, he has to pretend that trans activists don't think men and women tend not to be the same strength.
Opine on this. This only matters because today we segregate nearly all sports by gender.
Where's the line?
Otherwise, why do you even give a shit? what someone identifies with? We live in a...
Niel Degrasse Tyson's answer is that he wants to go wrestle and have a hot lady wrestle him and crush his face with her thighs. That's Niel Degrasse Tyson's response. He's like, this is an interesting question, but only if you don't want mixed wrestling, which I do, so I don't care.
I don't think that's his response.
And with consenting adults?
I don't think that's his response. I think it's quite an interesting response in the sense that, like, we do segregate. Like, the main segregation in society is based on sports, you know, and if we're segregating society, that and bathrooms.
And people's free expression of who and what they are.
Man, on an adult level, I agree with you. I think it does matter what you teach your children.
That's what I'm saying. And so there's the matrix of you know, what you are biologically, how you express yourself, who you choose as a sexual partner. If we actually live in a free country, as we tell ourselves, people's freedom to behave in any of those ways should not concern you at all.
Okay. I actually really like this line. So I doubt that Niel Degrasse Tyson is some, like, huge gender theorist. I doubt he has, like, some giant backlog of information on this, but his general response is like the real libertarian. This is what real libertarianism is. Not what Ben Shapiro pretends to be, where he says he's a libertarian, but then he wants the government to legislate morality. This is real libertarianism. Why does it matter? Why do you care? Why? And you could take that further, too. If schools want to allow trans women to compete with cis women, why do you care? If the Olympics wants trans people to be able to compete with cis people, why do you care? Why? It's those organizations and their rules. They have their specialists. They say they can do it. Who cares? Why should it matter?
Because Ben Shapiro is coming at it from... I'll tell you one way Ben Shapiro is coming at it from telling you now from a religious aspect. because he was taught in his religious books and all of that, because I know, because I was taught the exact same thing in schools. There's one man and there's one woman, and that's why he's bloody anti-homosexual as well, and there can be nothing else. So he's got that deeply, deeply embedded in himself. And two, he's deeply conservative and deeply right-wing. So he calls himself a libertarian, but he's not actually a libertarian. I don't like why anyone would believe he's actually a libertarian. Okay, let's carry on.
It's a pretty strong argument, to be fair. Not the whole argument, but it's still a good one.
Nor are they requiring that you behave that way. Okay?
Well,
this is for their own freedoms.
Well,
It's like, Ben, you don't have to just compete against cis men. If you want, you can compete against women too, you know?
Okay, let's get something clear. Ben Shapiro does not have the skills or the athleticism or the physicality to compete in any sport. Okay, having said that, let's carry on.
You could, Ben, if you want, you can also have your face smashed between two meaty thighs of a tall Greek woman with visible ab muscles, you know? Like, you can also do this.
We live in a free country. Now, what is unresolved here is, what do you do with sports? It's unresolved. And I follow that closely, and I don't see any meaningful solutions to come down off of that. We know that hormones manifest differently in different people, and have just the whole thing with steroids. Steroids are hormones, right? And we rallied against steroids in professional sports because it gives you an undue advantage. So I've tried to think.
Did you see him posture up there when he talked about steroids? Like he was showing off his muscles. This would go back. I'll point it out.
People, and have just the whole thing with steroids. Steroids are hormones,
wait.
right? And we rallied against steroids in professional sports because it gives you an undue advantage.
Postured. There we go.
So I've tried to think of what the future of sports would be in the world of a gender spectrum. And it may be, you don't specify whether it's a male or female sport. You just take measurements of what your hormonal balances are. And so you compete based on your hormones. I mean, this is fun I had. I don't know.
So I have 2 points.
I don't know if that's the answer. Don't know. But it's something.
Points that I want to make to this. First of all, I really respect that Niel Degrasse Tyson is thinking of other ways, because his question seems to be, how do you do this fairly, you know? And his interest here, because Ben's interest isn't one of fairness. Ben has never cared about fairness. His only interest is the promotion of a political agenda, which includes reactionary thought against trans people. He doesn't care about like how to actually fix any of these problems. But Niel Degrasse Tyson actually does seem to. So I like that and I respect that. I recently talked to a doctor on stream like 2 days ago, or was that yesterday? I think it was 2 days ago. And it seems like for the most part, with a extended regimen of hormonal intake, for the most part, trans women really do fall in line with cis women in terms of athletic performance in most instances. And that if the person who later transitions went on puberty blockers when they were a youth, that there is essentially like no real advantage, you know? That is one of the benefits of puberty blockers. If you are born AMAB and you're assigned male at birth, and you go on puberty blockers, and then you take estrogen and transition like into a woman medically, you never had a male puberty, which means you never had a specific level of androgen sensitivity, which enhanced your physical abilities. And for that reason, you would basically be like right in line with where you would expect.
So this is actually all very true. I've also done quite a bit of research on it, and Vaush is right. If you transition at a very young stage, you will fall basically very in line with, if you're, like you said, if you're assigned male at birth and you transition at a very young stage, go through the puberty blockers and then go through hormone therapy, and you never develop the bone density and muscle density of a male when you're young, you will basically fall very in line with a female when you're an adult. So Vaush is right. And I think Niel Degrasse Tyson is starting to win him over a little bit here. Let's see what else happens.
Cis woman to be maybe like a little taller on average, but even then, not as much as if you had experienced a male puberty, it seems. So there's a lot of variance to this. It's a really complicated question. But I like Niel Degrasse Tyson's approach to this, you know?
And even that, even if you do have, you know, the same bone density, it doesn't mean you're going to be you're going to be great athletically. You know, so much more goes into being a great athlete than just having, you know, like say you did have greater bone density, whatever. Doesn't mean you're going to be a good athlete. Like, great athletes have great, you know, hand-eye coordination. They have great, like, better speed or whatever. But, you know, you can make an argument that, like, men are, you know, on average faster than women or whatever. But if you factor in that you are basically the same, it doesn't mean you're going to be a great athlete. I mean, there's so much, like, aspects like that going, so, like, so much more, like, more to it than, you know, like in being a good athlete.
I like his perspective. He cares about fairness.
Winning him over. Told you.
I don't know where it's going to land.
The WNBA won't be in business for very long if that's the case.
It would just be you'd have to find some way to compete people against each other if you still care that sports is an interesting activity.
I guess the area where it does come up in a non-sports area.
Yeah, tell me, I don't know.
So it would be, you talk in your book about the education of children and teaching children about science. And right now, children
but
are being
taught
about the
issue,
quote-unquote gender spectrum, which is not
gender isn't a scientific issue.
Based. That is
yeah, Vaush is laughing.
What? It's not a scientific question.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Yes.
Right now, I recently attended my my young daughter's preschool lesson, and I learned they were being taught that sharing is caring. Now, as I understand it, sharing is caring is not actually a scientific principle. This is scientifically non-falsifiable, and I am deeply disturbed that they are militating scientific thought with what are you talking about?
That is a theory-based idea.
Yes, it's an idea. Yes.
Yes.
People express themselves on a spectrum. So you learn that.
That's a social. That's a social.
Yes,
not a scientific.
social. I said it earlier.
Social.
Yes, boy.
Hold on.
Based in different languages. Is that something you teach in science class, or is that something that you teach when you're teaching language?
You don't teach gender in science class. Wait, Ben. You aren't taught about the gender spectrum in science class, are you? I was never taught the gender spectrum in science class. Maybe like only to differentiate.
This is where Ben Shapiro is fucking wholly dishonest. And like I said, he's not a stupid oak. He's fucking Harvard educated. He's a lawyer. He fucking, like, you have to believe either that he's being incredibly ignorant here, or that he actually knows what he's saying, and he's just trying to push, like, he's just trying to pull the wool over people's eyes. And look, it's entirely possible he's being ignorant, but you're, at the same time, like, look who he's talking to. He's talking to fucking Niel Degrasse Tyson. It's like he's fuck off smart. He's really, really smart. You know, is he trying to pull the wool over Niel Degrasse Tyson's eyes? An oak who's he's fucking definitely smarter than Ben Shapiro. It's like a fucking astrophysicist, for goodness sake. Like, he's not going to, like, does he think that Niel Degrasse Tyson is a right-wing conservative like he is? And he's going to let Ben Shapiro get away with this shit? Obviously not. Or maybe he is, but maybe Ben Shapiro thought he would. Like, he's calling out all these scientists. He's saying gender is a fucking science, and they're teaching it in science classes. I mean, Niel Degrasse Tyson has spent so much time saying, keep, like, religion out of the science class, keep asking for shit that isn't science to be kept out of the science class. And now, Ben Shapiro is talking about including stuff that they're teaching non-scientific stuff in science classes, and he's talking to the guy who's been saying keep scientific, non-scientific stuff out of the science class. Does he think that Niel Degrasse Tyson isn't going to know what is being taught in science classes? Let's find out.
Differentiate it from sex? Like, here's sex, but like, here's gender, it's another thing? Are they teaching kids the gender spectrum in science class? I was never taught gender in any class. I was taught there were boys and girls.
So whether the fact that people want to express themselves on a spectrum, on a gender spectrum,
which is a fact
whether that
at the moment.
fact
Come on, yeah.
is something you want to put in a sociology class
Yes.
or in a science class, maybe that remains to be determined. But
I love this, dude. He had to know who he was talking to
Yes.
then here, you know, the fact. Oh my God. By the way, high school sociology classes, yes, please. They don't exist right now for the most part. Please, God, put them in. They'll fix so many problems.
See, like I told you, Niel Degrasse Tyson is smarter than Ben Shapiro. And Vaush just pointed that out. He said he had to know who he was talking to. Well, Niel Degrasse Tyson had to know who he was talking to when he came into this. Niel Degrasse Tyson is smarter than Ben Shapiro.
it is a real fact about real society.
Well, of course, nobody's denying that people identify how they want to identify.
So
You just bloody denied it. Yeah, Vaush is just as fucking confused as I am.
So
the question is, what is the relationship of that to biology? Meaning that the argument is made that trans women are women.
No, you can't. This is what I mean. How can anyone take Ben seriously where he's like, they're teaching gender, which is unscientific. But actually, no. I know that gender is theory and not science, but what's its relationship to sex? Well, and then he ignores the fact that other people say sex and gender are different, and then he's like, because they're saying trans women are women. Well, in gender or sex? What do you mean? It's like, this is what I mean. Like, Ben Shapiro's statements on this are indicative of a person not just who's wrong, but of a person who doesn't care whether what they're saying is right, and they just have talking points to go through. You know what I mean? Like, what he just said is self-evidently incorrect. Gender isn't scientifically correct, or like gender isn't a science, so why is it being taught in science? Okay, well, it's not being taught in science, but people are saying it's different from sex, but I say it's not different from sex. It's like, but like he's not actually answering or responding to anything. He just has his talking points to go through.
For example, and what that seems to mean is that trans women are identical to women. Now, if people want to say trans women are not biological women, obviously that is the case. But people don't seem to want to say that. Although
everybody, hold on, depending on what you mean by biological women, everybody knows that trans women are not biologically the same as cis women. Every human ever has said this. Like, this is what, like, Ben will sit here and he'll be like, well, nobody's willing to recognize that being trans and being cis aren't the same thing. Everybody knows that. This is a common reactionary argument where they will straw man absurd positions to their opponents and then try to convince their audience that everyone on the opponent's side believes that.
Well, that is obviously scientifically true. Trans women are not biological women. Biological women are biological women.
But where are you going with this? What are you trying to accomplish by asking yourself,
what are you doing,
is
man?
it science or is it not science? It's people in society.
But this is a perfect example of an area where suddenly it doesn't matter to say things that are just true. Like, why is it bad or wrong to point out?
I have another way to
no one said it.
He didn't even have a counter argument. His response was, how is it bad for me to say it? What? He was asked, where is he going? And because he didn't have an answer, he just has to say, well, I can say it if I want. He has nothing. It's empty.
I care what is objectively true in the world as a scientist.
Yeah, like I said,
Niel's even as a scientist. I just simply care what is objectively true. And science happens to be a pretty potent path to invoke, to find out what is true. And so if people express themselves on a gender spectrum, and that is an actual thing in an actual society,
cigarettes, unfortunately.
If we have not fully explained that scientifically, that's an interesting frontier to study.
Yes.
If you want to say it's only sociological, then it's the purview of the social sciences.
Yes. Come on, Neil.
I didn't expect to come out here coming in so
on,
hard
Neil.
Neil deGrasse Tyson's corner. I thought this was going to be painful. This fucking rocks. This slaps,
Yes,
dude.
I
This
told
is
you,
awesome.
Vaush is loving it
I don't
now.
care who studies it. It's an interesting fact about society that's worth learning about. To fight someone and say, it's not biological, it's just your this, it's real and it's there.
Come on, Neil.
Man, fuck.
Yes,
The
Vaush,
thing
I told
that I
you.
really like about this
Better love this
is
guy
because
now.
this is like a worlds collide kind of situation here. A lot of people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, you know? A lot of conservatives like him because they think of him as like this like cool science guy, which he is. I mean, that's his job. But the thing I like about this is that there are a lot of people who like Ben Shapiro who
Look, just to make it clear, I'm not fucking conservative. I'm not right wing. I'm South African, but I do follow a lot of American politics because South African politics are fuck off boring. Nothing ever happens here. Everything tends to stay the same. And when shit does happen, it's still kind of boring. So I do follow American politics quite closely. Definitely not Republican focused. I don't like the Democrats that much, but I'm definitely more aligned with their views just because my values do align more with the Democrats. So I wouldn't call myself, if I had to live in America, I wouldn't call myself a Democrat. I probably would vote Democrat just because my values do align more with the Democrats than they would with the Republicans. You know, I'm definitely more left-leaning. If I had to call myself anything, I would probably call myself a social democrat. I just wanted to clarify that because Vaush just said that a lot of conservatives like Niel deGrasse Tyson, and I like Niel deGrasse Tyson, and I just wanted to let anybody watching this know that I'm not conservative. Definitely more of a liberal. So, yeah, I just want to clarify that. Let's carry on.
probably also really like science. I mean, Ben Shapiro is always advocating for himself as this like pro-facts and logic, pro-science guy. But the thing is, they're wrong.
I like facts and
What
logic,
Neil
and I like
deGrasse
science
Tyson
as
is
well.
talking about
But
right
I'm not
now is a
conservative.
real scientific attitude. It exists. It's there. How fascinating it will be to study. That's a real attitude.
I like that.
It's like, which is conducive to science. Ben's attitude is that of a political pundit. He has an agenda. He doesn't care about examining or understanding or anything. It's just about delivering the talking points. So the funny thing to me is like, here is Ben Shapiro's aesthetic of scientific accuracy crumbling in the face of an actual advocate for science. You know, it's being destroyed literally by facts and logic right now. If more people acted like Tyson did here, the world would be such a better place. Again, I'm not like a huge Neil deGrasse Tyson fan or anything.
Why?
I mean, he's rocking it here. It's just I'm not coming in as a simp. I'm just saying like his attitude here is very, very admirable. Even
Yes,
if he didn't know anything about trans people, this is a very good default attitude to have. Nobody really seems to be getting hurt. What an interesting thing to study.
Well,
Because it's real because it manifests.
but it is real because it manifests. But the question of how to
Then you
classify manifestation is a scientific question, meaning that
What? Yeah. I'm recording something. Fuck.
for example, there's a woman over at Brown University. She came out with a study that suggested that there was a phenomenon called rapid onset gender dysphoria in women.
Oh, come on, man. This study has been so crushed. Just a reminder, by the way, the rapid onset gender dysphoria comes from a single study. And that single study was this one woman going to TERF sites and asking the moms on these TERF sites how they felt their children became trans.
Yeah, it
That's
wasn't
actually
very
what it was.
scientific.
This would be like getting like race science documents from the angry white fathers of to daughters who marry black guys. Like literally, she went to those forums to find it. I have it on my research document. It's all the way at the bottom. Wait, let me find the exact language I used to describe how bad this study is. Studies to watch out for. Here we go. Commonly cited by transphobes to indicate transness spreads socially, that exposure to trans material might encourage youth to be trans.
So I read briefly about this study, and I knew it was, I read briefly about it. I didn't go into depth on it, but I did know about this study, and I read that it was pretty much discredited, and that this rapid onset gender dysphoria was pretty much bullshit.
Rapid onset gender dysphoria. Bad data. The study polled parents, not the actual children. Those polls were taken online, and those sites were biased by nature. Like, fourth wave now, transgender trend, and I don't know why this has an apostrophe or an asterisk in here. I might have accidentally typed over it. I need to correct that. And then I said, horribly, pathetically inept data collection. Anyone who cites this should be laughed at. So again, this is a real advocate for science up against Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro claims to be pro-facts and logic, but he will do or say anything. Like, throw anything out there.
Yeah, that's why I say the fucking
to prove his political agenda.
Which a member of a particular group would suffer from gender dysphoria, and this person...
He will say and do anything to sell his shit. That's why I say he's a fucking snake oil salesman.
Immediate peer group would suddenly have an onset of gender dysphoria. This paper was so controversial that Brown tried to pull it, and then was forced to reassign it later. You see this sort of treatment of science.
No, it was pulled because it was bad, and then later there was a public outcry from conservatives, so they put it back up. Now let's see how Niel Degrasse Tyson responds to this. By the way, I like Ben's implication that like universities will pull studies that don't prove their pro-trans agenda. I like the deference to conspiracy here. Anyway, let's see how he responds, because he does not know anything about this study. There's no way he knows about it.
Question. What you're asking now is, are there some topics that should not be studied scientifically?
Right.
And is there some taboo? And Sam Harris speaks a lot about this.
Yes.
And
another great man, Sam Harris.
I think the concern is, if you study some topic that's a hot button topic and you bring scientific methods and tools to it, we don't trust, I'm interpreting here, I think we as a society don't trust that people in charge in a free country won't try to legislate something that will constrict people's freedoms in the face of that information. I think that's the fear.
Well, isn't that...
It's a fear.
I mean, and isn't that...
We don't trust our own ability to govern ourselves in the face of what could be some information relative to other.
What?
So I'm 50-50 on this response. It's true that sometimes researchers will be concerned that the media will overblow the information they present, because this happens all the time. A study will come out, and then, like, the media will freak out, and, like, politicians will freak out, and then, like, somebody will look back at the researchers, and the researchers will be like, no, stop, please.
Well,
you know?
as hectic as
I do understand that. On the other hand, if only he knew about this study, because, man, if Niel Degrasse Tyson could claim that the study that Ben Shapiro cited is a worthless hunk of shit, if he had the knowledge to pull that one out, that would have been so good.
Other kinds of information.
Isn't that a bit of a problem?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's not. It means it's not a free society. It's not a society of free inquiry, which I think you need ultimately. But yeah.
My general take on all of this stuff, from climate change to gender dysphoria to all of these issues, is bring out the science and then let's hash it out. I think that the problem I'm seeing on a lot of sides.
What is your motivation?
Why does that matter?
It matters because if you have political power, you could end up creating legislation that subtracts freedoms from people who previously were enjoying the same freedoms as you.
What are you talking about? You just bring out the science, but then you bring out the science, and he denies the science. The science is there, and then Ben Shapiro denies the science. It's all bullshit. He's such a bullshit artist.
The history of that exercise.
But I like what Niel Degrasse
too dishonest to acknowledge
just said.
Inquiry, which I think you
bring out the science and then let's hash it out. I think that the problem I'm seeing on a lot of sides.
What is your motivation?
Why does that matter?
It matters because if you have political power, you could end up creating legislation that subtracts freedoms from people who previously were enjoying the same freedoms as you. The history of that exercise
Then make a better argument.
doesn't end well.
Yeah, well, but
He's too dishonest to acknowledge that he's only doing this to be part of like a political agenda. That this isn't some independent investigation into the facts.
the history of which exercise? Bring out all the science and let's hash it out.
I'm saying,
but we do.
If you bring out all
won.
the science and the politicians hash it out, the history of that exercise is a recipe for disaster if it involves discoveries that put people's freedom as defined in our Constitution at risk.
But now you're arguing for limitations on areas of particular study.
No, I'm arguing on we need a way to shield, we need a way to protect people's freedoms in the face of whatever gets discovered scientifically.
So
I'll give you.
I agree. I think that's what the Constitution is for, is to guard rights from.
But we're always fighting people who want rights are always fighting others who are saying they don't get the rights from the Constitution. This is a daily challenge on the progressive left. It is a daily challenge, right? Here's an example. I forgot how I ended up getting this phone call. It was some magazine that serves the gay community. And they want, I don't remember why, because they wanted my opinion on, they wanted my opinion about whether being gay was biological or mental.
Right, there's that new study that came out, this DAS
or
study.
Psychological.
Right,
okay?
right.
And I said, I don't care which it is. Find out what it is, fine. But the answer to that question should have no consequence.
Yes.
True.
It's a good one.
That is so fucking true. Because for the longest time, the question as to whether or not being gay is a choice was a matter of political import. The reality is, it doesn't fucking matter. It does not matter. I don't care. I don't care if people are gay because they're born that way. I don't care if people are gay because they fucking dab too hard one day and their fucking neurons shake up and they turn gay. I don't care anything. Come out with the worst right-wing conspiracy. People are gay only because of sexual trauma in their youth.
It doesn't matter.
I don't care.
It's
You shouldn't sexually traumatize people in their youth, but they're still gay. I don't care. All of these attempts to determine the origins of gay, is being gay part of some witch magic flowing from the Himalayas, an ancient cult spreading homosexuality upon the winds? I don't care. People are gay. I don't care. Investigate the question all you like, but it means nothing to me in terms of how gay people should be treated today. Zero. It means absolutely nothing.
Yep. He's right. He's right. Niel Degrasse Tyson's right. Because at the end of the day, no matter how they turned out to be gay, you can't infringe on their right to be that way. That is the truth. And like I said, Ben Shapiro doesn't fucking believe that. Why? I'm telling you now. It comes down, first and foremost, to his religious upbringing.
On legislations or laws. Because, for example, suppose it said it's purely biological, okay? Then you say, oh, that explains it. Then suppose it says it's purely psychological. What are you going to do now? You say, well, now you're going to go to the reorientation camps or whatever those are called?
No, this would happen. If it was shown that being gay was purely a psychological phenomena, then right-wingers would promote like youth education in ways to discourage being turned gay. That Ben Shapiro literally just did this by citing the rapid onset gender dysphoria. The implication is that if it could be proven that being gay is something which is a product of like psychological or educational influence, that you would then like structure youth media and youth education to minimize the likelihood of them being gay. It would be something of political import from people like Ben Shapiro. Because they already make this argument with trans people, don't they? They already say, oh, well, being trans is more likely if you're exposed to trans propaganda, so that's why kids' shows shouldn't have, like, gay characters and trans characters or whatever. They already say this, you know?
where they realign you because they say it's psychological rather than biological, all of a sudden, people start behaving in ways in society that want to constrict the freedom of expression of who and what people are.
Yeah, because that's what it ultimately is at the end of the day. It doesn't matter how someone turned out to be that way. If, like he said, discover which one it is, but it doesn't matter, because the legislation shouldn't have any effect on legislation, because the freedom to express yourself is your freedom to do so. That's fucking fantastic. And Vaush, you gotta like him at least for this. At least for this, you gotta love him at least for this. And astrophysics.
Danger. So maybe there needs to be a line in the sand. Let science do what it does, but politicians keep us free. Yet there's so many politicians that are doing the opposite of that.
So why aren't you a libertarian? I mean,
oh, fuck off. You're not a libertarian.
You're the one who legislates morality, Ben. You're the authoritarian in this interaction, Ben. He's making the libertarian arguments. You're making the conservative authoritarian arguments.
Libertarian, come over here. Just
okay.
You're not a libertarian.
I just said he's not a libertarian.
I like how he didn't actually have a counter argument to that. Okay, man, that was actually like kind of amazing. So Ben Shapiro was forced to distinguish between sex and gender. Ben Shapiro was too dishonest to admit that he has a political agenda with the advocacy that he engages in. Niel Degrasse Tyson objectively out-libertarianed him, and Ben Shapiro didn't have any rebuttal towards the end there. That was a roll. That was incredible. Yeah, let's take a look at the comment section. This is definitely where I lost Neil. He's wimping out so bad it hurts. This is what it feels. If you watch this as a fan of Niel Degrasse Tyson and you lose respect for him, you never actually had any respect for his work. Yeah. You are only interested in scientific inquiry up until it contradicts your political agenda.
These are just Ben Shapiro.
We've officially reached the point where even scientists are scared to admit blatant truths and navigate taboo topics. I couldn't believe my ears listening to this. What?
What?
He literally said, research it all you want. Just keep politicians from making hasty restrictions of people's civil rights while the research is being done. This is Rich. He doesn't hesitate to bash deism on the basis of science, but when science undisputably establishes a truth, he brings up excuses. What undisputable establishment of a truth? What truth did he argue against? So now sports is a higher factor than evolution for him? This is what I mean about Ben Shapiro fans. They literally don't even listen. They didn't watch the same video. Not only did Ben Shapiro not make any affirmative arguments here, Niel Degrasse Tyson never contested the empirical claim that men tend to be stronger than women.
Ben Shapiro stand.
But they hear it anyway because they don't care. They don't care about science. All they care about is their political agenda. None of these people were fans of Niel Degrasse Tyson to begin with. None of them listened. Their hearts and their minds are closed. They are every bit as dog.
He just destroyed Ben Shapiro. But they all, what is it? If he doesn't even believe what he's saying, how does he expect, this one here. If he doesn't even believe what he's saying, how does he expect anyone else to believe it? What a weak man. Never seen someone look so pathetic in my life. This man is the biggest coward in the so-called science community. Oh my God. These people are such idiots. Leftism is a subversion of truth. This guy can't even believe it, honestly, out of fear. What fear? Oh my God, these people are idiots.
Dogmatic as like the most like insane inquisitioner. They are utterly incapable of hearing new information. These people have closed minds. Neil is very dishonest here. How? What did he say that was dishonest? Oh, these are Ben Shapiro fans for you.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Absolute copium. Why did Ben upload him getting utterly destroyed? Because when your audience is as conditioned as Ben Shapiro's audience is,
Doesn't matter.
they won't recognize him being destroyed at all. They won't
They just
see it
think
and they
he's
won't
right.
feel it. They won't. They don't even recognize it.
They just think
He-
Ben's
like
right,
that's
no
what
matter
Ben
what.
knows. It
They
doesn't
think
matter.
Ben's
Conservatives don't
destroying
their
him.
reality in conservatives' heads does not correspond to the reality of the empirical world. So you can do or say pretty much anything, and people will always defend you. They will always side with you. Look at all those YouTube comments, man. Those YouTube comments are making claims about Niel deGrasse Tyson that are objectively incorrect, saying that he sacrificed himself for the logic of political correct or the altar of political correctness, and that he's woke now and he ignores reality. He didn't ignore any reality at any point at all, nothing. But they'll say it anyway. Pretty sad.
Yeah, what a fuck up. Well, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed it quite a lot. Hopefully, Vaush at least changed his. Well, I don't know. Some people call him Vaush. I just call him Vaush. I won't say like or subscribe or any of that shit. I don't even know if I have a proper channel or anything like that. But give it a watch. Maybe you'll enjoy it too. Anyway, yeah. Peace out. How the fuck do I stop recording?